The things that we're gonna learn for this topic. First, definition. Second, telltale signs of win-win potential. Third, most common pie expanding error. Fourth, most commonly used win-win strategies. Fifth, effective pie expanding strategies. Sixth, strategic framework for reaching integrative agreements.
Hijra, can you explain to me what is a win-win negotiation?
Of course, Hanim. Most people equate win-win negotiations with the fair division of resources. Hanim, do you know a win-win negotiation does not equate to any of the following actions? There are 4 types of actions included. The first one is compromise. The second is even split. Third, satisfaction. And fourth, building a relationship. For the first action, compromising. Compromise refers to reaching a middle ground between the negotiators' positions. Win-win negotiation does not pertain to how the pie is divided, but rather to how the pie is enlarged by negotiators.
Well, how about the second point? Can you explain to me what is even split?
Well, Hanim, even split, like compromises, it refers to how the bargaining zone is divided among the negotiators.
For example, 2 sisters who quarrel over an orange and ultimately decided to cut it in half and have reached an even split.
Now, Hanim, I will continue with the third action, which is satisfaction. So, satisfaction is no guarantee that money and also resources have not been wasted. In fact, many happy negotiators do not expand the pie.
So, Hanim, next I'm going to explain about building a relationship. Building a relationship and establishing trust comprise an important aspect of negotiation. However, people with a genuine interest in the other party may not think creatively.
Does negotiation contain more than one issue? It starts as single-issue negotiation, and it's still possible to have more than one issue. Can other issues be brought in? While during negotiation, it is possible to bring additional issue midway to the negotiation. Can side deals be made? Side deals will cause more issues in negotiation, hence it will increase the possibilities of conflict resolutions. Do parties have different preferences across negotiation issue? Yes, because different preferences will make it possible to have a win-win negotiation.
There are 2 key problems. The first one is false conflicts. Next,
Fixed pie perception, of course.
Azrina, do you know about the false conflict?
No? What is that?
It's known as illusory conflict, which means occurs when people believe that their interests are compatible with the other party's interests, as in fact, they are not actually. The next one is fixed pie perception.
Tell me more about this, please.
Actually, it's a belief that the other party's interests are directly and completely opposed to one's own interests. Commitment. Most negotiators committed to reach win-win deal. However, commitment is not a guarantee for that, Arjuna. Next is compromise. Negotiators often by mistakes perceive win-win negotiations for equal concessions negotiations. As compromise pertains to slicing the pie, not to expanding the pie.
Oh, I see.
How about the strategy focusing on a long-term relationship, Azrina?
Oh, it is about negotiators' belief that focusing on a long-term relationship can ensure this nature of negotiation, yet still have no guarantee to have win-win outcome. Latifa, how about adopting a cooperative orientation?
Oh, it is where the negotiators' intention to cooperate often keep them from focusing on the right information at the right time. But don't give anything away unless you get something in return. At the very least, the last strategy is by taking extra time to negotiate. Having extra time to reach an agreement is actually not a guarantee to make a close deal.
Not to forget, Latifah, both parties need to have same pace in optimizing to reach a win-win outcome.
Firstly, perspective taking. Negotiators attempt to see the world through the counterparty's eyes, so it will avoid the conflict and engage in the successful log rolling. During negotiation, negotiators could ask the other party a number of questions as will help them engage a successful deal. However, about revealing information is not whether to reveal, but what kind of information to be revealed. Next, unbundle the issue. One reason negotiation fail is because of haggling on one issue, so it leads to fixed pie. To fix it, it's simple. Unbundle the issue and transform it to be discussed over in order to have a win-win negotiation. Log rolling and value-added trade-off. Once negotiators have brainstormed their issues and interests, they can potentially trade off issues in a win-win fashion, such as each negotiator is able to make gains on issues that they think important in exchange for making concessions on lesser value issues. Pre-settlement settlements. Press involve more than a simple handshake or gentleman's agreement. Rather, a press occurs in advance to the parties undertaking full-scale negotiation and is designed to replace by a long-term agreement. Lastly, search for post-settlement settlements. It is when negotiators reach an initial settlement. However, it will lead to spending additional time attempting to improve their each own perspective.
The things that we're gonna learn are: first, resource assessment; second, assessment of differences; third, offers and trade-off; fourth, acceptance or rejection decision; and fifth, prolonging negotiation and renegotiation. Well, what is resource assessment? It involves the identification of the bargaining issues and alternatives. The issues that will arise is salary, vacation, and benefits. Due to the union of both parties' issues, it will form the issue mix of the negotiation. Asrina, can I know what's next? Okay, next is assessment of difference. We should focus on assessing the negotiator's difference in valuation, probability assessment, risk preferences, time constraints, and capabilities when the issue mix is clarified.
Okay, next is offers and trade-off. The parties should consider several potentials such as valuations, forecasts, risk, time constraint, and capabilities and eliminate those dominated by other alternatives. They should be more focused on issues that are high value and low cost for the other party to provide.
Okay, what about this?
In this step, the set of terms that define minimally acceptable and exceeds their reservation point. That does not mean the settlement is efficient. They should continue on their time cost and subjective assessment to reach superior solution.
Okay, for the last steps, there will be two feedbacks that will rise from the decision stage, which is the negotiators will prolong negotiations when the best agreement failed to meet both parties' reservation points, and they will reassess the resources by unbundling the initial set of issues and breaking them down into smaller issues that may be trade-off.
The first point, resource assessment. Resource assessment involves the identification of the bargaining issues and alternatives. For example, consider an employment negotiation. The bargaining issues may be salary, vacation, and benefits. The second point is assessment of differences.
Once the issue mix is identified, we should focus on assessing their differences in valuation, probability assessment, risk preferences, time constraints, and capabilities. Third, offers and trade-offs. In this phase, parties should consider several potential trade-offs among valuations, forecasts, risk, time preference, and capabilities, and eliminate those dominated by other alternatives. Next, acceptance or rejection decision. At some point, negotiators may identify a set of terms that both find minimally acceptable and exceed both parties' reservation points.
Last, prolonging negotiations and renegotiations. Negotiators should prolong negotiations when best agreement on the bargaining table fails to meet both parties' reservation points, and should reassess the resources by unbundling the initial set of issues and breaking them into smaller issues that may be traded off.
The first point, commitment to reaching a win-win deal. In negotiation table, many negotiators are committed to reach win-win deal. However, it does not guarantee they will reach a win-win agreement. The second point, compromise. Equal concessions does not really ensure that a win-win negotiation has been reached, as compromise pertains to slicing the pie, not expanding the pie. The third point, focusing on a long-term relationship. Negotiators believe focusing on the long-term relationship will ensure a win-win deal. However, it does not guarantee a win-win outcome. The last point, adopting a cooperative orientation. It is good for negotiators to have a cooperative orientation during negotiation. However, negotiators' intentions to cooperate often keep them from focusing on the right information at the right time.
December 15. 4A. Discuss any three differences between distributive and integrative bargaining. Distributive bargaining is about a win-lose negotiations, having more conflict and focus more on getting better deal than the other sides, while integrative bargaining is different because it's a win-win negotiations, lesser in conflicts and focus more on concession regards to the deal.
December 16. 1B. Unit 8 of a diagram illustrate the decision-making model of integrative negotiation. First, resource assessment. It involves the identification of the bargaining issues and alternatives. The issues that may be arise is salary, vacation, and benefits. Second, assessment of differences. We should focus on assessing the negotiators' differences in valuation, probability assessment, risk preferences, time constraints, and capabilities when the issue mix is clarified. Third, offers and trade-off. The parties should consider several potential trade-offs among valuations, forecasts, risks, time preferences, and capabilities, and they must eliminate those dominated by other alternatives. Fourth, acceptance or rejection decision. The negotiators may identify a set of terms that they find minimally acceptable and exceeds their reservation point. However, that does not mean that settlement is efficient. Fifth, prolonged negotiation and renegotiation. Prolong the negotiation when the best agreement on the bargaining table fails to meet both parties' reservation points, and reassess the resources by unbundling the initial set of issues and breaking them down into smaller issues that may be traded off.